Hey everyone, this is Chris. Welcome back to the channel, and this is the daily Uncut News. So we got to start with the railroad strike. It may be still happening. Both sides are still negotiating, but there's some sticking points over unpaid sick leave for doctor visits, and also to quality of life, let's say being on call. I do appreciate comments or sort of adding these information to this. Sometimes the articles doesn't necessarily tell me everything that's going on, and I just appreciate information on these things. If you guys have been following the channel, you know that we've been talking a lot about worker conditions, worker pay, and things like this. I think this is probably one of the more important points to understanding inflation and why it may continue, because essentially workers need more money to pay for things because things are going up in cost, but then companies have to pay workers. I just keep emphasizing how that's an important point. Now, one of the things that is important also too with the railway workers is they are under different labor laws than the rest of the country. So theoretically, the government can force them to accept whatever deal the government considers fair. Bernie Sanders actually blocked a bill by the Republicans, and so this is some of the language. So this is from the Republican side. I just want to read it so you guys can hear the language. So this would be Wicker on the Republican side. So he's saying there are mechanisms that have been in law for a long time to allow Congress to step in and prevent the economic disaster that would ensue. I think it's time to invoke that provisional law. So basically, from that point of view, which I totally get, and I want you to make sure you guys get it too, is that, well, if we don't resolve this right away, it's going to cost the nation a bunch of money. It will hamper supply chains, hamper the economy, and be bad for all of us. So therefore, the government must make a decision, regardless of what the workers want, right? And I think that's I can get that point of view. So sort of like sacrifice the few for the greater need of the many. Bernie Sanders, this is his point of view on this. I'll read it. Bernie's saying, I wonder if the CEOs and top executives of the railroads would get fired if they got sick or had a medical emergency in their families. And Sanders continues, I doubt very much. I don't think anyone wants a strike or a lockout. We hope that a settlement will be reached in the next day. In my view, if we reach a settlement, I would hope that the railroads, which are making huge profits, treat their workers with respect they deserve. So this is an issue that Sanders has always been all about, that companies make record profits and they basically need to share more with workers. The other thing is too, as you guys know, I live in Korea. It's a different system here in Korea. It's a different system in other countries, but basically just talking about, say, Korea and Japan, they have really great healthcare, and essentially if you're just a nation of the citizen of the nation, you can go to healthcare for very, very inexpensive. I wish we could do that for everyone in the U.S. as well. For whatever reason, some people don't like that, but I always laugh because it always sounds so strange to me. But here's what I'm talking about. I think that if you want to see a doctor, you should have a right to see a doctor, and that's a certain some people believe that, some people don't. But I think that's not a crazy thing to say. And also, too, my opinion on this is that if we make healthcare affordable and we're all using it, we save money in the long run. From people, for example, getting too heavy and living unhealthy habits. This is just how it is. Costs us all in the long run because our health system gets bogged down. So I'm about preventative health, and that's just my opinion on that. But I'd love to hear you guys' opinion on that as well. But this definitely relates. And also, too, I have no problem if someone wants to go to the doctor and call and work and say, hey, I got to go to the doctor. But evidently, this is a big issue in the railroads. And if you guys know more about this, I'd love to hear your thoughts and actually just stories about how serious of an issue this is for workers. Also, too, Biden could theoretically step in and do an executive order, but that's not particularly popular, especially before a midterm election. So I'm sure they're trying to do their best, and the way that you have to play these as a politician, essentially, you got to try to make everyone happy. But that's sort of one thing I always admire at Bernie. He doesn't care what people think. So, like him or love him, I think you could understand that Bernie has a point of view, and he's like, that's what I'm going to say. Now, here's another one. Ray Dalio. So he's a billionaire investor dude. He's always coming out with this kind of stuff. And so he's saying he crunched the math. And if the Fed keeps raising interest rates and we hit 4.5, essentially those stocks are going to drop about 20%. So I've looked at this also into as it looks like many essentially economists or traders, so you want to say it, are kind of calculating that the interest rates could peak at, say, around 4.4 next year. So basically, we're going to be this is sort of just estimates that the Fed's going to be increasing interest rates, through next year. It'll peak, but if that does happen, then Dalio is saying we're going to go down another 20%. So always take it with a grain of salt, but just you want to have a general sense of like what are different people saying, and that's what he's saying. So I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on that. I do think interest rates are going up, though. And people who are like crazy bullish on stocks, I think they'd be crazy, which that's just what it is, because like inflation, like it's like at 8% right now, and the Fed wants to get to be at 2%. So you can't tell me that they're not going to raise interest rates. They're gonna raise interest rates. Like I said, anyone tells you different, they'd be crazy. So I don't know necessarily if stocks could drop 20%, but I don't think that's far fetched, considering interest rates are going up. Do be aware of these things. Also, too, going around the world, Congress actually authorized money. This is estimated at 4.4 billion, 4.5 billion. I did read another estimate at 6.5 billion. I don't know what the exact number is, but this is the general range, and the general idea is that the USA is going to be sending weapons to Taiwan, and this is sort of to deter China from invading Taiwan. And this is bipartisan, so it was a 17-5 vote. And looks like the money's there. And I've been telling you guys all along, I started telling you last year that defense contractors, if you're looking to invest, it is a good bet these days, especially with global conflict, and also too in a recession. If the economy goes up, down, left, right, recession, no recession, the government spends money on defense. And Republicans do it to look strong, and Democrats do it to not look weak. So it's a joke, but I think you guys get the gist of it, is that both sides are going to spend money on weapons. And the other thing is too, is what people don't realize is that when we do spend money on defense, these go to American jobs. That's just how it is. But obviously only certain industries benefit from this. But yes, it is kind of a way to cycle money through the system, benefit certain companies, and then send that money off to someone else. And I do totally get it, guys, that during tough times you're like, well, why don't we use that money for something else? Why don't we just give everyone a student loan deferral, etc. I mean, I really get it. This is just how the world is, and I've lived through this long enough to know that defense contractors make money. So that's why I mentioned that Lockheed Martin last year, General Dynamics, Raytheon, these kind of companies, and they'll probably still remain good. This is an interesting story. Zelensky over in Ukraine was in a car wreck. Basically, from what the reports read, they were driving in a motorcade, and some car just basically ran into Zelensky's car. I don't think this is by accident. There's no way this is an accident. So this is probably, if I had to guess, I'm sure this is some sort of attempt on his life. I mean, there's no way this is an accident. And they haven't really necessarily released any more details or his condition. They're saying he's fine, but this sounds like an attempt on his life. And I'd be curious if you guys think there's any there's no way there's just a random car comes and hits a motorcade and hits Zelensky's car. There's no way that's random. So that's what's up with that. I wish him best, and yeah, I don't know what else to say about that, but I don't think it's by accident or anything like that. I think it's an attempt on his life. Also, too, speaking of attempt on Zelensky's life, Putin and Xi will be meeting. This is the first meeting after the invasion. I remember they met before to say, hey, basically, can you support me? I'm going to invade Ukraine. Keep buying our oil. So we'll see what's going on. I hope it's not, hey, Mr. Putin, this is from Xi, can you support me? I'm going to be invading Taiwan. USA is building a bunch of weapons. I just want your MiGs and your help. So we'll see what's going on with here. At the end of the day, I'm a U.S. citizen. I serve in the United States Navy. I stand with America. If you got a problem with that, you got a problem. That's how I feel about these things. So I do enjoy my company with Chinese people. I even have Russian friends. I do enjoy that, but I don't like the governments of Russia or China, and I don't want to go to war with anyone. In this situation, Russia is clearly the aggressor. If China attacks Taiwan, I think we got a real problem on our hands. So. The USA, though, is going for deterrence. So, we'll see. There's the old saying is good fences make good neighbors. So we'll see what they're talking about. I'm not going to predict one way or the other whether or not China will invade Taiwan. So, and this is the money we're talking about with weapons to Taiwan, as you can see, 4.5 billion. Also, too, that I can tell you firsthand, it's expensive to live in Korea. In fact, though, however, the prices are going down, and you can see they've been coming down quite considerably, but it's still elevated here. So, we'll see. If you think it's expensive in your neck in the woods, it's expensive here. I'm just telling you guys. And, one of the things that I think is going to cool off the economy is essentially China, which is, obviously the biggest country in the region. But their real estate essentially bubble is busted, however you want to call it. And this affects other parts of the region because essentially you have Chinese over-leveraged developers. These people, they invest in Australia, Canada. They invest in Korea as well. Although I've heard as well that someone was writing in the comments, and I haven't had a chance to verify it, but someone was writing that the UK also invests in Canada, which I think is kind of interesting. So basically, big money buys up homes everywhere. and forces the markets to go up. It's a big bubble. And as I mentioned before, I think this should be illegal for big corporations to come in and buy single family homes. Korea's a little bit different because there's a lot of basically towers. So not that many people actually own in the way that you would think, because in the big cities, most people are living in essentially these like big tower things. It's an interesting thing, and we'll keep tracking this as the housing markets cool because the interest rates are going up. You'll start to see sort of people feel kind of like, I don't feel so happy anymore. And it sort of deters them from spending on other things. That's the same with the stock market as well. They call it like the wealth effect. So just people just feel less rich, even though it's more like a paper loss. You haven't really lost anything if your stocks are going down or if your home is depreciating, kind of thing. So that's something to keep an eye on. Regarding the winter, we've talked about this before, that I think energy cost is going up. The USA is telling people in Europe essentially that we're not going to be making more energy for you, more oil for you, so you're on your own. Obviously, this is going to be a big problem. So yes, energy went down in August, but I do expect it to go back up. So this is where inflation may not be necessarily cooling. It was kind of weird because all of the news outlets were like trying to convince everyone that inflation is coming down, and then the reading came out hot. I never said that. I just never said that. I said, guys, rents, mortgages, and wages will stay elevated. And I didn't necessarily predict that food would go up in cost. I actually expected food to come down just because fuel costs had come down, and just figured, more people were, shipping food a lot much easier. But one thing I will say, when you pay attention to the news, like for example, there's India is charging tariffs on their rice or tax on the rice essentially. So basically, any of the rice that they export is I want to say it's like 20%. We looked at that article a couple of days ago. So the price on rice from India is going up, and then also too there's like a shortage of water in California, so they're not making as much rice, and also too there's a drought in China as well. So I'm not sure if the rice production is down, but I know their hydrogen power production is down. I have to check on the rice thing, but all these things are connected. But since the U.S. isn't giving relief to Europe, I do expect energy prices to go up, and we'll see how Putin reacts to that. Speaking of energy, Ford, for whatever reason, I think they'd be crazy. They're going to make the new Mustang a gasoline vehicle, which I think is just crazy. Some of the numbers out of Ford, I'll just share with you guys. So the Mustang used to be really popular, and in fact, it peaked in 2015. And as of today, like since from 2015 to the peak of Ford Mustangs, where they were selling like 52,000 of these things a year, it's dropped 57%. So people aren't buying these things like they used to. These are this basically muscle sports car. I don't know why they're going gas, other than this is what they say. There's a quote from Ford. They're saying, for Mustang enthusiasts, the car evokes emotion, and part of the emotion is the smell of fuel. So if you're all about the smell of fuel, then the Mustang is for you. But overall, Ford by 2030, 40% of their cars are going to be EVs. So I don't know what's up with that. I guess they're predicting that they're going to sell more via gas. We'll see. I just don't know what to think about that, because actually I do know what to think. I think they'd be crazy. I think electric's the way to go, but hey, each to their own. Then the last story we have today is Patagonia. And if you guys are a fan of this brand, you may really know it's really quite interesting. The CEO is like just going to give away the company. Basically, he's giving it to the trust, and then they're going to use that money, and they're going to invest in climate change. So invest to stop climate change, not to invest to make it worse. So you know what? Put your money where your mouth is, and I respect that. And the other thing is too, it's funny. I grew up in Oregon, and sort of this Columbia, Patagonia, and Teva, all these outdoor brands are real popular when I was in high school. I don't know if Oregonians are still wearing that stuff now. I'm assuming they are. But I thought that was kind of an interesting bit of news. And so that's going on here. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of these things. And in particular, especially for people who know about the railway strike, I'd love to hear any more stories or thoughts about worker conditions there, and if you think we're going to avert this strike or not. I do think actually it is quite serious. There's of all the other serious things going on, I think that's one. And also, too, the Dalio prediction of 20% down. I think that's probably pretty realistic. And that's why I've been showing you guys numbers. And just based on numbers, when interest rates go up, it tends not to be so great for stocks, especially growth stocks. So that's why I've been recommending dividend stocks all the way through. I've mentioned the defense stocks before, and that's what's up. So anyway, do appreciate everyone's time. Thanks for joining us, and I'll catch you in the next video.